Today we're jumping into Adobe Photoshop Elements 2025.
Yep, and you've sent over a great batch of material for us to look at. Reviews, tutorials, forum chats, lots to unpack.
Exactly. So our mission today is to really pull out the key insights, especially focusing on what's good, the AI stuff everyone's talking about, and this new licensing model.
Right, while still, acknowledging the different takes we saw in the sources. We've got stuff from Life After Photoshop, a YouTube tutorial from HTG Photo,
Articles from Amateur Photographer, the official Adobe blog, Reddit, plus some general editing basics. Okay, ready to get started.
Let's do it. So first off, Elements is really positioned as that simpler, cheaper, and crucially subscription-free alternative to the full Photoshop, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely aimed at beginners, hobbyists, people who don't want that monthly fee or the steep learning curve.
And it has that separate organizer app, too, which some people find really useful for sorting photos.
Right, and inside the editor itself, you've got those three modes: quick, guided.
Which now has 59 options in 2025. Quite a jump.
Wow, yeah, and then the advanced mode for when you want, more control.
Plus that shared home screen with Premiere Elements, which is handy if you do video, too.
So let's talk positive feedback. What are people liking? The Life After Photoshop review seemed pretty upbeat overall.
Yeah, they really highlighted the pros. Big one, subscription-free and reasonably priced. That keeps coming up.
Always a major selling point for Elements.
Definitely. They also like the guided edits, the organizer app, and specifically called out the new AI features object removal and that depth of field effect.
Okay, so the AI is getting positive nods right away. That matches what we saw on the Adobe blog, too. They were quite excited.
Oh, yeah, they really pushed the AI. The new remove tool, simply brush to remove objects, they said. Sounds easy.
Uh-huh. And there's a guided edit for that, too, right? Object removal.
Yep. And another big AI feature they mentioned is adding realistic depth of field with precise control, that new depth blur filter.
That's interesting. Creating that blurry background look, the bokeh effect, can be tricky manually.
Exactly, and AI is making it simpler. They also mentioned changing the color of any object using automatic selections.
Okay, that could save a lot of time compared to, carefully selecting things by hand.
Totally. And there's a new guided edit for combining photos, seamlessly combine multiple pics, plus 4 new quip actions for adding motion effects.
Motion effects, like what?
Camera motion, animated sparkles, a blinking heart, an animated frame. Fun stuff, for social media maybe.
Right, quick, easy ways to add a bit of flair.
Plus, they mentioned new textures, graphics, support for the Apple M3 chip for Mac users.
Huh.
Faster performance is always good.
And those guided edits, up to 59 now, are still a core part of learning, right?
Absolutely. It's a way to learn techniques step by step.
Going back to that Life After Photoshop review, they mentioned the lens blur filter using AI for 3D depth. Is that the same as the depth blur Adobe mentioned?
It sounds like the same feature, yeah. Using AI to understand the scene's depth and apply blur realistically, that's pretty advanced stuff for Elements.
And even on Reddit, we saw people saying older versions are still useful, right, for things like basic adjustments, maybe real estate photos.
Yeah, and that you can enhance it with affordable plugins. So it has a history of being a solid, long-lasting tool for many.
Okay, but there was that one con mentioned in the Life After Photoshop review. The cheeky new 3-year license. Let's talk about that.
Right. This is important for you, the listener, to understand. It's a change in how you buy it.
So it's still subscription-free?
Yes, it's still a one-time purchase, but that purchase now gets you a license that's valid for that specific version for 3 years.
Ah, okay. So after 3 years, if you want the next version with its new features or updates, you'd likely need to buy again.
That seems to be the implication. It's different from the old perpetual license where you bought, say, Elements 2020 and could use that specific version forever. Now it seems tied to a 3-year term for ongoing use with updates within that term.
Got it. So still no monthly subscription, but maybe not quite buy once, use forever in the same way as before. Something to be aware of.
Exactly. A shift in the model.
Okay, let's refocus on the AI because that really does seem like the headline for 2025. We've got object removal, depth of field.
Color changes with auto selection, combining photos more easily. AI seems woven into several key enhancements to make complex tasks more accessible.
It's interesting, though, that Life After Photoshop noted some existing guided edits, like the color swap one, might still use older non-AI selection tools.
Yeah, that suggests they're maybe rolling out the AI strategically, focusing on the big new features or maybe areas where AI offers the most significant improvement over older methods.
Makes sense. And the AI isn't just in the editor, is it? Shotkit mentioned it's in the organizer, too.
That's right. Using Adobe Sensei AI for things like auto-tagging photos,
Yeah.
finding all your pictures of dogs or beaches automatically.
Smart tagging. Useful.
And also suggesting things like slideshows or collages based on your library. So AI is working behind the scenes on organization and creative suggestions, too.
Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Layers. Super fundamental in photo editing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That HTG photo tutorial really broke it down.
Yeah, it was a good overview. Layers are basically like stacking transparent sheets. You can put different things on each sheet, adjustments, text, parts of other images.
And work on one without messing up the others. Non-destructive editing.
Exactly. The tutorial mentioned how your photo usually opens on a single background layer.
And their big tip was duplicate that layer immediately.
Yes. Crucial best practice. Always work on a copy so your original pixels are safe. If you mess up, you just delete the copy or hide it, and the original is still there, untouched.
Makes perfect sense. So how do you add more layers?
Well, you can duplicate an existing one, like we just said, or hit the new layer button for a blank transparent layer. You can also go to the layer menu or use the place command to bring in another photo or graphic onto its own new layer.
The tutorial mentioned smart object layers too. What's the deal with those?
Think of them as protective containers for a layer. If you put an image inside a smart object, you can resize it, rotate it, warp it, whatever, multiple times, and it won't degrade the quality because it always refers back to the original data.
Oh, okay. So it keeps the original quality intact during transformations.
Right. You can simplify it, as the tutorial showed, which turns it back into regular pixels if you need to, like paint directly on it. But then you lose that non-destructive scaling benefit.
Gotcha. And once you have layers, you can shuffle them around.
Yep, just drag them up or down in the layers panel to change what's on top. You get that bounding box with handles to resize or move the layers content around on the screen.
And you can hide layers with the little eye icon, link them, lock them. Seems very flexible.
Totally. And the tutorial touched on opacity, making layers see-through, and blend modes, which control how layers interact visually, like making light parts show through or multiplying colors.
They showed adding a drop shadow using layer styles too.
Yeah, layer styles are preset effects. You can just click to add shadows, glows, bevels. Quick and easy.
And then adjustment layers and fill layers. Those sound important for that non-destructive idea.
Hugely important. An adjustment layer, like for levels or brightness contrast, applies its effect to everything below it without changing the actual pixels on those layers. You can tweak the adjustment layer anytime, turn it off, delete it. Total flexibility.
Okay, I see. And fill layers.
They just fill a layer with a solid color, a gradient, or a pattern. The tutorial showed using one with a mask to, say, colorize only part of an image non-destructively. Very powerful combination.
And it seems like using layers effectively is really key to unlocking the advanced mode in Elements, right? Getting closer to how you'd work in full Photoshop.
Absolutely. The amateur photographer piece hinted at that too. While quick and guided modes simplify things, the advanced mode, with its layers panel and manual tools, lets you take the training wheels off if you want to.
So Elements kind of grows with you. You can start simple and move towards more complex techniques like layer-based editing.
That's the idea. It provides that pathway.
Now, pulling back a bit, that UGC MOC's source gave a good overview of general editing concepts. Defined editing as art and craft for effective communication.
Yeah, it covered the basic selection tools like marquee, lasso, magic wand. Why selecting accurately is important for targeting your edits.
Cropping for composition, resizing images, understanding scaling versus resampling.
Retouching, preparing for output, and again, it stressed layers for workflow flexibility. It also mentioned histograms for checking brightness.
Noise reduction, removing unwanted stuff, which, hey, ties right back to the new AI Remove tool in Elements 2025.
Exactly. You see how these core concepts are addressed by the software's features? It also covered things like selective color change, fixing perspective, sharpening, merging images, lots of fundamental techniques.
So knowing these basics helps you understand what Elements is actually doing for you, whether it's guided or manual.
Precisely.
Okay, final big area. How does Elements 2025 stack up against the big guns, Photoshop and Lightroom? We had several sources comparing them.
The number one difference, echoed everywhere, is the payment model. Elements is buy it once, with that 3-year term now. Photoshop and Lightroom are subscription only. That's a huge factor for many people.
Right. And the target user is different too, generally.
Generally, yes. Elements easier to use, aimed at beginners, hobbyists. Photoshop Lightroom, pro-level tools, steeper learning curve, much deeper feature sets for demanding workflows.
What about specific feature gaps? What does Elements not have compared to Photoshop?
Well, sources mention things like advanced raw processing, Lightroom is king there. Elements lacks things like CMYK export for professional printing, full 1632-bit image support for high-end editing,
Uh-huh.
maybe some specialized tools like the pen tool for precise paths, advanced content-aware fill options, channel mixer, stuff that pros might need but beginners probably wouldn't miss.
And Lightroom is much stronger for organizing large photo libraries.
Right. Definitely. That's really Lightroom's core strength: organizing, cataloging, batch editing, and robust raw development. Elements has the organizer, but Lightroom's catalog system is more powerful for managing huge volumes of images.
Interestingly, Elements does seem to lean a bit into graphic design elements too, maybe more than Lightroom.
Yeah, with the text tools, graphics, layer styles, it lets you do more of that kind of creative compositing work within the one app.
We saw that Reddit comment saying Elements is very limited in many ways compared to P.
Right, which is true if you need those pro features, but
Yeah.
that same user suggested trying the trial, which is good advice. See if it does what you need it to do.
And there was that recurring mention of Affinity Photo as an alternative.
Yeah, Affinity Photo often comes up as a strong subscription-free competitor that's perhaps positioned somewhere between Elements and full Photoshop in terms of complexity and power. Worth checking out for some users.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Photoshop Elements 2025. It seems like it's doubling down on ease of use, especially with all the new AI features.
Absolutely, making things like object removal, depth effects, color changes much more accessible. It keeps that subscription-free appeal, though you need to be aware of the new 3-year license term.
It really caters to that beginner and hobbyist crowd with the guided edits in different modes, but still offers a path to more advanced stuff, like layers in the advanced mode.
Yeah, it strikes a balance. It's not Photoshop. It has limitations, especially compared to the Creative Cloud suite. But the AI boost in 2025 makes it a really compelling option for its target audience.
So for you listening, think about what stood out. Are those AI features the main draw? Is the subscription-free model the key thing? Does the layer capability in advanced mode sound intriguing?
And we definitely recommend grabbing the free trial. There's no better way to see if it fits your needs. Play with the AI tools, try some guided edits.
Maybe compare it with Affinity Photo, or even free tools like GIMP if you're exploring options. And spend some time with that layers panel, maybe following the HTG photo tutorial ideas.
For sure. And here's a final thought to chew on. As AI gets more integrated into easy-to-use software like Elements, how is that going to change photo editing for everyone? Does it lower the barrier so much that technical skill becomes less important?
Or does it free people up to focus more on the creative side?
Oh.
Interesting times.
It's definitely something to think about.